Welcome to another installment of A More Perfect Career, a place where information is shared, ideas are exchanged, and individuals in career transition gain insights about landing their perfect job. So good morning, everybody. This morning, we're interviewing John Tubridy. John is uniquely qualified as a FranNet business advisor. He's spent over 30 years in business as a general manager and an entrepreneur with primary experience in business development, sales, marketing, and project management. John assists individuals to find the right franchise opportunity. John's previous position as Vice President of Business Development for Lee Hecht Harrison, an international career services company, and a commercial insurance executive has given him a keen insight into the career decision-making process that is involved with making the leap into the world of entrepreneurship. As a franchise specialist, he provides free consultations to individuals who are seriously seeking business ownership opportunities. John works to match the personal, professional, and financial goals of his clients with carefully selected national franchise companies. He further coaches his clients on how to thoroughly search for and evaluate franchise opportunities so that franchising can be seen as a safe and affordable way to be a business owner. He is an avid supporter of the franchise system and understands the importance of getting that right match for his clients. He has gladly helped hundreds of individuals enter the world of entrepreneurship in Western Pennsylvania and beyond, and looks forward to helping many more in the future. John owns and operates FranNet of Pittsburgh since 2004 and is well connected in the business community through many different organizations, including the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber of Commerce, and is an active board member and former chairman. John hopes to create opportunities for all those individuals in the Western Pennsylvania and Northern West Virginia areas who have dreams of owning their own business. John is also co-owner of Unishippers franchise, which is a third-party logistics company that handles shipping and mailing for small to mid-sized companies. John has been happily married to Ellen, an insurance professional, for 32 years. He has 2 boys and is a semi-empty nester, or halfway to heaven once we convince his oldest that living with his parents is not forever. John has been an active coach for the last 20 years, coaching basketball, baseball, and softball. He continues to struggle with trying to get himself into coaching shape. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing some of the career insights that you've picked up over the years and some of the reasons why, as people are in a career evaluation mode, why having a conversation with you might be a good idea for them. That's a very impressive bio, and we've known each other for a while now. I know that you are the FranNet guy here in town, but tell me, how did you come to be where you're at now in this position?
Actually, I worked for an international career transition company, and we used to bring someone in like myself to speak to our client base. He and I hit it off, and they were looking to expand and have someone in this local marketplace. And one thing led to another. My background and having corporate insight and knowing how to work with, as I call them, corporate refugees, it gave me some insight as to the entrepreneurial side of what, and I kept hearing that from my client base when I was with the career transition company, that they were looking for something different. And so I decided to venture into this, and that's kind of one thing led to another. So,
wonderful.
And the guy that brought me in was sort of my mentor. That was 15 years ago. So
okay, all right. So you are a FranNet consultant. Can you tell us exactly what that entails? What exactly is FranNet?
Yeah, FranNet's an international consultant company that, quite frankly, over 30 years ago, we developed this conduit in the franchise world, basically helping franchisors identify individuals who were a good fit for them. And more importantly, we kind of reversed it and really looked at the individual and helped them find what was a good fit for them. So we're, if you want to call it, we're kind of the eHarmony of franchising. We started this industry, this segment in the industry, and we still continue to be probably the most respected and the longest doing this type of matching client to the franchise world. The franchise world pays me to help them find appropriate people. My client base, it's a free service to them.
Okay.
We stress education, you know, in our process. That's probably the name of the game. So it's a fact-based information that we provide to clients.
Okay, wonderful. I like the way you refer to that as the eHarmony of franchising. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, not a lot of loving, but.
Tell me then a little bit about what you do on a daily basis or on a regular basis as a FranNet consultant.
Well, I mean, part of it is a general awareness, and I spend a lot of time making sure people are familiar with the service we provide, and me individually. You know, a large part of what we do is be a trusted consultant to individuals who are really putting their life on the line in terms of their next encore. And so it's really important that they have someone they can trust. And so I spend quite a bit of time doing that and developing sources and talking to my client base and talking to my franchisors to make sure I understand who they're looking for as well. So, you know, there's a lot of little components to this business that involve me becoming more familiar with my franchise base and my client base as well.
Okay, wonderful. Is there a typical profile for the clients that you work with, or a profile that you would say, yes, this will be a successful business owner?
You know, in the past, I would say there was a profile. When I first got in this business, it was the corporate refugee. The face of franchising is changing dramatically. We're seeing younger millennials going into franchising. We're seeing individuals who are keeping their jobs and looking at this as a semi-absentee business, kind of driving, maybe creating equity for themselves long term. So we're seeing that. We're seeing where parents are really creating a legacy for their kids. They're starting businesses in conjunction with their adult children so that they can hand something off to them. So that world is changing in terms of the face of franchising. So there's different silos to my client base now that really was a more linear before. It was more people like you and I who had left the corporate world and were looking to do something on their own. But that's changed quite a bit.
Well, that's interesting that typical profile has changed. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you a little bit later, but I'm going to ask you now, is about the trends. What do you see as the trends that are affecting your industry, either good or bad?
Well, the good, from a good standpoint, the financing end of things has lightened up quite a bit. So from banking aspect, so where in the past, if someone needed financing, it was more of a struggle. So I'd say that is probably a positive. The economy, this is a good time. There was the rising tide, it lifts all ships, and the franchise world is also finding the benefit of that. There's a much better regulatory environment right now with the recent political regime. It's more franchise friendly. So there's a lot of positives going on. The franchisors are very encouraged by a lot of the recent environment. Negatives, I would tell you from my aspect, a negative trend is there are a lot of smaller franchisors that are entering the market, newer franchises where there's greater risk. So it actually, from a trend aspect, you're seeing a lot more enter that marketplace. For me, it's probably better because people are probably more dependent on me to help them identify franchises that they think are safer, are going to make it in the long run. So I provide that type of guidance, and we pre-screen our franchisors quite a bit.
Interesting. So, a book that I'm sure you're very familiar with, The E-Myth Revisited. What you're saying then is
Michael Gerber.
Yeah, some of these franchisors are not setting that business model and that process completely into place before they are turning to the franchise model to grow their business. That could be very dangerous for a potential business owner.
It can be, and hopefully if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're another veil of safety for someone. There's no guarantees in any of this. The world of entrepreneurship is, there's risk with it. But I think for our client base, the more screening they can do, the more due diligence they can do, the more they can rely on some experts. It's all good for them. Most of my client base, this is brand new to them. They've never entered into this world. So having someone kind of give them some guidance and create a process of investigation, it's really important to them.
So without a doubt, and so to that end, tell me a little bit about what the consultation process looks like.
Well, the first thing we usually insist on is that they have some level of education in this. And we ask them to either sit through one of our webinars or come to a seminar. We're in every major market in the country. So, that can be a physical visit to a seminar or a webinar that we conduct on a regular basis. They're usually an hour or more. If it's a seminar, it's usually 2 hours. So our client base comes in with some foundation of knowledge about the franchise world before they jump into this. They know the questions to ask. We also use profiling tools. That would be the second step once they go through that the webinar seminar process. Then they complete a profile that is kind of a map or a navigator for me, and it also helps my client kind of understand themselves better, understands whether they should do this or not. It measures risk. It does a lot of different things. It's a unique tool that is really geared for entrepreneurship.
Okay.
The next part of that is we meet, we develop a business plan, a business model, which really is a criteria of things that are important to my client. And then the next part is the matchmaking part, where we match them to concepts that fit that model. And then it's all about research, and we give them information on how to do the research. And then the last part, if we align them with advisors, so to speak, whether that's financial advisors, banks, accountants, franchise attorneys. So we simplify the process, and we give them guidance through the whole period of investigation.
Very interesting. I wish I had some of that prior to opening my business.
I wish I had you too, Greg.
Exactly.
You would have been my star client.
Right. And as we both know, my counterpart over on the other side of the state, but yeah. I didn't know you prior to doing what I'm doing now, but
Right.
You answered part of the question. Tell me a little bit more then about how you go about matching a client with a prospective franchisor. How do you know it's a good fit?
Well, the model gives me an overall indication of what is a good fit, but we drill down post to the profile assessment and just validate whether these are important issues. We actually do the same thing with the franchisor. So there is a modeling approach with them as well. So we create some science to this, and so that's all part of the matching process. The science plus the verbal investigation as well. So it gives us really a good overall picture of that client need.
Okay, wonderful. And how many franchisors do you work with?
We work with about 200 on an ongoing basis, and once a market is complete or filled, we may bring on another one in that category, either on a nationwide basis or on a local basis. And we have some that are really locally driven, maybe a 5-state region versus a national. So it changes. It's not a static type of inventory, so to speak. And
Okay.
we think because we pre-screen, we think we have either best in category or near best in category.
Okay, wonderful.
And by the way, there's over 3,000 franchises, so that that's the other dilemma that people have. This can be overwhelming for them if they're really looking at franchising, where to start, how to begin. We narrow the process. We make it target shooting rather than a buckshot approach.
Okay. Yes, if you look through something like Entrepreneur Magazine, there's just hundreds of franchises all the time. It's overwhelming.
It is. There's thousands actually. So yeah, and that's the other part. We bring it to a more manageable. In fact, we really mandate to our clients, don't really look at more than 3 or 4. I may talk to them about more than 3 or 4, but really to investigate, look at 3 or 4, and don't just look at one. You really want to be able to compare and contrast. And I think they all appreciate that. I have clients that say, "Oh, hey, give me 20 of them." That's way too much. You really don't accomplish anything until you really start really narrowing down the process, because it takes a lot of time if you do it the right way.
Right. If you get more than 3 or 4 in there, it all just starts to become a jumble of
Exactly.
information and
Exactly.
everything else. So talk to me about the number one benefit then that you provide to your clients.
The number one benefit, I think, is that we give them a process, and we're in many cases we're local. So in fact, like I mentioned before, we have someone in every market, and I can refer people. If they're in San Diego, I can refer them to my counterpart in San Diego. We know who's who in the market, the attorneys, the accountants, all that part of it. We know that's different parts of town. But more than anything, I think we're really proficient on developing a process for someone. And even though this isn't unique, the trust level that we've been doing this for 30 years, I think that goes a long way, both with the franchisors and with our client base. We aren't new to the market. We're not new to doing this. We're a trusted advisor through this whole thing.
Okay, wonderful. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges nowadays in your business?
You kind of hit on it before. There's in some ways there's more clutter. When I first started doing this, it was more of awareness to people. Now it's just too much information, and what do you do with it, and how do you decipher what's right or wrong, and so we're kind of a reality check for a lot of our clients. And we teach them where the most appropriate place to do the research is. So I think that's part of this, the challenge right now. And knowing the good from the bad, I think is helpful to clients that are trying to see what's the best option for me.
Okay. What do you feel you do differently? What do you feel you do better than some of your competitors out there?
Well, we have 30 years of data on profiling. That in itself gives us an edge over anybody else. We're one of the only companies that really do spend a lot of time on the profiling and the education part of this. A lot of them just do the matchmaking of my competitors. We're locally based. So those are really distinct advantages that I think give us a leg up from most people, most of my competitors.
Okay.
Was there a second part of that? Did I miss that?
No, it was just what do you feel you do differently or better than your competitors?
Yeah, I think I probably stated it pretty well that way.
Yeah.
That aspect.
The geographic area then that you personally work in is Western Pennsylvania, Northern West Virginia?
Yeah, all of West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Okay. As far as Altoona?
As far as Altoona, up to Erie, down to the Maryland border, and then into West Virginia, all through there.
Wonderful.
I can work with any client around the country, depending on the preference, and I've put people in franchises around the country. But if their preference is to work with someone local, I just refer them to them.
Okay, wonderful.
And we really have a cordial relationship with all of my counterparts. I mean, we help each other. So.
Okay. How would somebody go about reaching you if they are interested in pursuing business ownership, entrepreneurship, and looking at a franchise opportunity? How would somebody find you?
Well, first of all, we have a really pretty good website. It's www.FranNet.com. You can do /J Tubridy, that goes directly to me, or you can just go on our site. We have a microsite too that has information about me. There's also great just franchise information on there as well, in the general educational sense. And phone number obviously is probably the best way to get me. And I have an office number, and I can give you that. But always the best way to get me is by cell, and that's. Should I give that number out?
Yes, go ahead and give that out.
724-612-0961.
Wonderful. And at the end of this recording, there'll be a permanent slide that has all of your contact information on there.
Okay.
So if anybody watches through to the end here, all that information will be displayed for their benefit. So at the end of the day, if you are a professional, wondering about what do I want to do for my next career, and something along the lines of business ownership has been in the back of your mind for some time, John is the person to reach out to. He has access to a lot of different franchises out there. He has the tools to help guide you through that process. And by all means, I would encourage anybody that is thinking about business ownership to definitely reach out to John and have a conversation. John, is there anything else you would like to add at the end of this?
Yeah, probably just a little bit, Greg. And the one part is that I've been in most of my clients' shoes before in some way, shape, or fashion. I've recreated myself 4 or 5 times. And I really care about what happens to my client base and their success. So it's more than just the elements of matching and education. It's the caring as well. And I truly care for everybody that works with me and their families, and I get to know them pretty intimately. by going through this process, and it's a journey. So
Wonderful. I enjoy working with other business owners that show the type of passion you have for your business. It's always encouraging to talk to business owners that are passionate about what you do. John, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And for all of the viewers, just stay tuned for 1 second here, and all of John's contact information will display. Thank you, John.
thanks, Greg. Thanks for the opportunity.